They say that they're interested in taking care of the little innocent ones. They're not taking care of our son. They told us they could do a better job than us, Doc. That's what they said.
If I could say anything to a mother who just got their children detained, you're in a crisis. Life feels like it's over. The most important thing is regaining custody of your children.
The child welfare system at its core is designed to protect children who need protection. Okay, and that's key, is who need protection.
So social workers, out of fear, will remove more children rather than only remove those children that truly need to be removed.
The difference between the criminal system and the child welfare system is substantial. You have more rights as a criminal than you do as a parent.
You're not proving your guilt, innocence, or anything. You're proving how better a parent you are to the system. And you're just driving to be the parent.
Typically associate blessing with this fictional, painless existence and things going as we think they should.
It's so frustrating when you're the parent and you feel like, the judge, he doesn't know. And like you said, who is he going to believe? The parents accused of these horrendous allegations, or the social worker? Why would she lie about it?
The kids are traumatized, and the one person that they need to go to is still unsure what really happened.
Were there signs there? Were there no signs? Did I miss them? Did I catch them? At this point, I honestly don't know.
Families only get a finite amount of time to reunify.
The families are destroyed, sometimes never to come back the same.
Come here, bitch.
Kids are not safe in child protective services.
So my son with special needs has been in 4 different homes. It doesn't seem real.
This isn't someone stole your car. Someone broke into your house. This is someone took your child. Your flesh and blood.
Hi, everyone. My name is Georgette Truin. I am the co-host for Fight CPS, Real Talk with Miss G. And my guest today, his name is Zayan, and I also work for the law office of Vincent Davis. Welcome to my show, Zayan. Go ahead and introduce yourself and please share your story with us.
Hello, my name is Zayan Glengill. Prior service military veteran, father of 5, 6 now at the time, the incident 5. You want me to start with my story right now?
Yeah, go ahead. I would like everybody to hear. I know about your story already, but I want everybody else to hear it from you. You just cannot mention the kids' names and the social workers or judges, but you can mention the state and county the case is in.
Okay. Well, it took place in King County, Seattle, Washington, and it happened in 2018. The focus incident took place November 28th of 2018. Allegedly, it was reported to the school staffs. Am I supposed to avoid saying the name of the school too? Okay. It was reported to the school staff allegedly by one of my children, can I say my stepson? All right, yes. Cool. My stepson, who also has special needs. It was allegedly reported that he said that he was struck in the stomach, that he was punched in the stomach. Now, it wasn't revealed to me at that time, but in fact, he was questioned by 3 teachers, of course, outside of the classroom, regarding the allegation. The teacher also stated that she noticed that it looked like someone grabbed his face really hard. And she stated that they put that into the DCYF report. And what happened was they contacted me the same day. They initially contacted the mom, but they didn't exactly tell her what the concern was about. So she contacted me because I was available to come down to the school. So I showed up at the school, and it was unusual. They didn't bring out my kid like they usually would and, escort me back. Instead, it was the behavioral counselor that spoke with me, and she said, your son has a black eye. And my initial reaction to it was, okay, I'm trying to figure out, you guys called me here because of the black eye, and I wanted to get to the bottom of it. At no point in time did she indicate that they suspected it was me at any time. So they questioned him or whatnot. They allowed him to go home. He came back home. It was, to me, in my opinion, it was a regular afternoon. I didn't really understand what was going on at that point. The behavioral counselor contacted CPS based off of her assessment of the situation. I guess she believed that he met the elements that required a mandated report. So she made a mandated report stating that Amarius, he said he was punched in the stomach. She asserted that that they asked him several times to recant his story. Mind you, this is a six-year-old child with special needs, and he had an IEP for speech development. So they kind of concluded and put together what he said, because it wasn't, and to this day I don't know what was said because nothing was recorded. And so from that questioning of my child by the Seattle Public Schools teacher, they made the report. Initially, the report was designated as a family assessment response. Now, I have to excuse me for not knowing the exact specifics. Usually I have my stuff pulled up here, but I have to go through and find the specifics. But they inappropriately escalated the report from a family assessment response to an investigation. And what that did is it amplified the severity in the report. And this is where it gets very interesting, is they say that my stepson reports being punched, and then in the same sentence they say resulting in scratches and bruising on his face. That connection right there is where everything really went wrong, because at no point in time did my son allege that I punched him in the face. There's no supporting evidence that I struck my children in the face. They question all. I'm going to continue the story. I'm going to try to stick with the timeline. So they came by my house that same night at 8:30 at night. My children were asleep. It's a school night. I think it was like right after Thanksgiving or something. But it was a school night. And my boss from my job at the time he asked me to babysit his dog when he goes out of town. My boss at the time was a pretty hotshot owner of a dispensary. And he had to go to Miami. He has family all over, and it was around Thanksgiving time, so he didn't want to bring his dog with. Instead, he left it with me. Not only did he pay me, but my kids loved the dog. It's a little English bulldog named Zeus. Anyway, so the kids were asleep in bed at about 8 o'clock is when I try to get everybody in bed and to sleep. And I had children ranging from 2 all the way up to 9. 5 children in the home at the time. So they came by 8:30 at night. It was 2 armed police officers. and 3 social workers
Mhm.
that came by at night. I didn't know it at the time, but after receiving discovery and through depositions, it was disclosed to me that the police officers were informed by the social worker that this family does not like white people. I don't know where they got this. Well,
Wow.
actually, I do have a suspicion on where they got this, but I can kind of clarify that. At no point was this ever said. Ever said. It was assumption made by the department. In fact, what we requested was that we demanded that if we were to work with the department, it would have to be someone of similar cultural background, is what I said. Um, doesn't mean that I don't like white people. It just means that I prefer my case be handled by someone who can identify with me culturally. Um, uh, my vernacular, references, things within the Black community that Black people kind of deem normal.
Mhm.
Uh, anyway, so the social worker informed the police officer who came to the house that I didn't like white people. One of the police officers was, in fact, a white male. The other one appeared to be white, but I could have been wrong. So they came to my door 8:30 at night, and my initial reaction was to not let them in. I I don't know much about this situation, but I know this: if they don't have a warrant, I don't know what business we have, and that's pretty much the position that I took. The social worker then contacted my wife, who she was my fiance at the time, who was at work, and kind of began to pressure her, saying that we're, hiding the children from her. Um, and my wife, she was just trying to take a defensive position, and she wasn't exactly sure where the kids were or where I was, so she kind of conveyed that, like, I can't say whether the kids are in there. I can't say what's going on there. Zion's at the door. Talk to him. And at which point she texted me and she advised that I bring them out one by one, each child one by one. And whenever my wife says something, I do it. I do it because I mean, and it's not just a happy wife, happy life dynamic, but when dealing in these type of situations, she's always kind of been the voice of reason, where it's like, all right, Zion, you have to kind of look at the big picture. We want to show that we're working with them, that we're being compliant. We don't want to put up, obstacles to prevent their investigation. So what I did was I agreed to bring out the children one by one. I did assert that I would like them to keep their distance. I will bring them out one by one, and I also asserted my rights to not allow them into my home. These are things that I asserted, and I also asserted that if they don't have a warrant, I mean, everything that I'm doing is out of grace. So I brought each one of my children out, except for my 2-year-old. He was like sleep in bed, and he's a 2-year-old. He wasn't even 2 at the time; he was about to be 2. And so as I brought out the children, mind you, they were completely freaked out and didn't know what was going on, because I woke them up out of bed like, we got
Wow.
to go outside. And they're just like, and what's really bad is my daughter was like, she was 5 at the time. She really didn't handle it well. Like, she didn't want to go outside. She held onto my legs so tight, and I was just like,
They felt it. Kids feel when there's chaos going on.
well, yeah, and it was a lot of uncertainty. Never in their lives before have I woke them up in the middle of the night and led them outside to a group of 5 people in the dark. Mind you, it was November. It was dark outside. So they brought them out and they questioned the children. Oh, I forgot to mention, my stepson, that same day, he voiced that he had no fear of returning home. He said that he wasn't afraid to come home, and that's why they sent him home. When they came that night, they asked the children if they felt safe, or were they okay. They all said yes. the social worker specifically asked my oldest child, who was 9, if she felt safe. Now, my 9-year-old is, excuse me, to this day, she is a smartass. She is the oldest of all the children, and she will say some real slick stuff like that. And we'll have to talk to her about it later. So when they asked her, was she okay? Her response was this: I feel safe, but I can't speak for everybody else. And so
That's just a response that a child hears from an aunt or somebody in the, you know what I mean? Like, for example, that's what my sister would say. I'm fine, but I can't speak for my other sister when they
I
ask.
can't speak for anybody else.
Yeah.
That was kind of like she's saucy, very much so,
Yeah,
like
she's
a mom.
sassy. She's very
Yeah.
sassy.
And she's the oldest child, so she feels like she operates on a level beyond her age when she really doesn't. But she feels that way.
She heard it from an adult. Yeah.
As she always does. That's kind of her thing. So send her back in. Now they only saw 4 children. One of those children was Amarius. I mean, whatever. One of those children was uh, the boy that they alleged was abused. The police officer, one of the police officers, made a report that day, and it took a while to get it. This report was not made accessible to me during my criminal proceedings, during my dependency proceedings. I had to get it through a public disclosure request. And after I read the words in this, I'm really having loss in understanding how they came to the dynamic that the children were abused. So I just want to kind of streamline and fast forward to what one of the police officers said that day. He said that I asserted my rights to not allow them into my home. He said that he didn't say anything about me being confrontational, anything about me being violent. He said he peeked into the house every time I opened the door to allow the children in and out. And he said he didn't see any signs of distress. It appeared clean from what he could see. I also want to state that he himself stated he couldn't see any injuries on any of the children, but he said that the department alleged that they saw it that night in the dark. And it's very interesting how everything develops after that. But one thing that I find to be very interesting is that in his report, he says that the social worker, and I got to find his exact language, but he said the social worker made him feel or gave him the insinuation that they wanted him to grab the children as they came out from me. That's literally what he said. He said that's what he got to feel that that's what they wanted to do. Later on after getting discovery, I found out that CPS came with the intention to do a removal. They literally referred to it as to conduct a removal, and we were unsuccessful on this day. So what happened was, and this blows my mind here. Oh, and I want to mention one specific part that's really important. My 5-year-old daughter, the one that was afraid to come out and all that, they shined the flashlight in her face, and they didn't say they saw anything. And this is key, because the following day, they place all of my children in protective custody when I send them to school. Mind you, I send them to school. I'm not hiding them. I didn't even give them a conversation that you might talk to police officers today. I had a feeling that it might happen, but I didn't think it was why would I lie? Why would I prep them? For what? The truth is the truth. They're not going to
blame parents for prepping the children. We know they always blame parents. They have to set you up to fail. I mean,
I didn't prep them at all.
I know.
Mind you, I sent them straight to school. I didn't hide anything because I'm not in the wrong. And when I did that, that following day, the CPS worker went up to the school at, I think, 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock in the morning and called the police department, Seattle Police Department. Seattle Police Department didn't show up until about 1:30, 2 o'clock p.m. that day. And at that time, they went in. They alleged that it was body-worn cam recorded. That's what they allege. But there was no recording of the interviews. They didn't record the interviews, is what they stated, because they anticipated a far more thorough interview, forensic interview. And that's the reason why they didn't record this interview. Mind you, this is the second day that the boy that was alleged to be abused was questioned. Mind you, he has special needs and he has a speech impediment. So this is the second day that they brought him out of his classroom, and this time it was with the CPS worker, a Seattle public school staff member, and a police officer. Now, they questioned these children collectively. Mind you, all 4 of my older children were in this room being questioned by these 3 individuals. There was no recording made. According to RCW and DCYF policy, they were supposed to document verbatim the questions and responses by the children. None of that was done. Instead, what was done was the second police officer. Remember, I told you there was 2 police officers that came to my home. Only one made a report that day. And this guy, we'll call him the good cop, because believe it or not, he protected my rights. I think he was the one who didn't snatch the kids, who said, we're not going to do that here.
He probably knows the law. Yeah.
I applaud him. But his partner, he didn't like the way that I drew the line in the sand the day prior. I'm not sure if it was the reference to my family not liking white people, or the fact that I took control of the situation and kind of described to them what it was that what they're allowed to do and what I'm going to do. And then after this, we'll go our separate ways because I say so and you don't have a warrant. So goodbye, sir. It was kind of that demeanor I took, because be honest, I was really upset that you guys are this is embarrassing. We're outside of my home. Everyone's looking out their window trying to figure out why there's a posse at 8:30 at night in front of my house, and it was a really stressful situation. The following day, the police officer who I verbally confront, I forgot one enormous part. During the interaction, I voiced my concern with the fact that there was too much blue, not enough black, was the exact quote. And the social worker, she said it in a deposition. She said that's exactly what I said. Too much blue, not enough black. Now, let me explain this just in case somebody doesn't understand what that means. Too many police officers, not enough black people. Not enough black people.
But that's not a reason to take somebody's child.
No. But let me explain this. This is where it gets interesting. The social worker grins at me at that point, looks down and say, "Oh, you're talking about my blue jeans?"
Okay, yeah, she's being, yeah.
And at this point, I got chills because I'm literally voicing my concern with the lack of equity in this group here. That I could say some black people shit and you guys would be like, "Oh my God." When really regular black people would be like, "Yeah, I feel you." It's just a matter of vernacular, if you will. But after she said, are you talking about my jeans?" I asked her, "Are you trying to be funny or are you insulting my cultural intelligence?" She literally looked at me and said the latter. At which point I got completely silent. Because if you're gonna, I wasn't cracking a joke. I was being serious. She thought it was the perfect time to make a joke about her jeans. And then when I tried to clarify, she confirmed that she was insulting my cultural intellect.
Well, she's
And
an idiot. She's an idiot.
well, hang on. Let's talk about her. She had only been a social worker for 8 months. In fact, she was under probationary period that lasted a year. She didn't even make it out of probation. She ended up getting fired 1 year after she got hired.
Mm-hmm.
They terminated her before she got her out of her probationary period. They weren't satisfied. During a deposition, she alleges that she was terminated for insubordination, but she also does things like she alleges corruption within the department, leading to her termination. She says that because she wasn't, or she was terminated because she refused to lie. And all this is in a deposition. I also have it in an email that she sent to the prosecutor. So I mean, like, this is her words: corruption and DCYF, as she's terminated 2 months after my children were removed.
So basically, she refused to lie about people.
That's what she says. She says she was terminated because that's what she said. But this is my thing: is I don't know if that's a genuine whistleblowing remark, or if this horrible social worker was just looking for a way out or a scapegoat. You see,
They a lot of social workers who do not work for the department anymore, they tell me the same thing. They say that they were forced to lie, and if they don't lie, they're not going to get the funding. They're not going to make money. If they don't lie to remove children, they're not going to make money. So they're forced to lie. We have another video that I shared on my show before with a social worker, an attorney, a CPS attorney in federal court, arguing with 3 federal judges as to telling them it's okay to lie to steal children. And the 3 federal judges, and you can literally, it was like over an hour video, and they looked at her like they were in disbelief, like, you're telling us that it's okay to lie to steal children from families? So that's
and this is a thing, but I think it's a little,
but we don't know if she meant it in a, we don't know.
Yeah, and in my situation, when they took the children to question them, Annalise, I'm sorry, when they took the kids to question them, they not only did it collectively, but none of the children state that they observed this punch. Yes, did you see it? Did you see it? There are 4 kids you're questioning, and not one of them says, even the second day when the officer is trying to press, and I don't know what kind of questions he asked. I don't know if they were leading. I don't know what happened, because none of it was recorded. But one thing that is for sure is that the police officer reported that my stepson said he was slapped several times in the face. Now, I got pictures of my stepson's face. And not only that, they took those children to the hospital. Now, in the hospital, now this is where it gets interesting. They took the children in custody at 2 o'clock, but they didn't take them to the hospital until about 9 o'clock p.m.
Wow.
And at first I wondered, why would you take children to the hospital at 9 o'clock p.m.? Things happen late at night at hospitals, and they have short staff. So a lot of times, certain services that they're supposed to offer you are unavailable. So we use the resources we had available to provide the services. Well, guess what? That same night they took the children, they had the children assessed and examined by an attending physician. I'm not supposed to say names, right? So the attending physician, we'll call him the veteran doctor. So they had the veteran doctor overseeing the medical evaluations of these children. Now, when it came to making the determination of abuse or signs and symptoms compatible with abuse and or neglect, according to their language, they had that determination made by a doctor who had less than 8 months of experience. 8.5 months before she saw my children, she was a student in California. Now, am I allowed to say the name of the hospital or no? We avoiding that too, because they're in hot water already for being racially unjust. They've just had a seasoned, revered doctor step down after 35 years alleging racism. And you guys can figure out where I'm at. It's not hard. You can Google and figure out what.
Is that a county hospital? Like what do you call it? Is it a well-known?
Yeah. Oh, it's very well known. It's very well known. It's the go-to place for CPS.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Yes. So I'm not. Anyway, so they take them there, and they have, instead of the attending physician, this guy is supposed to be seasoned. Has lots of years in his profession and his practice. Right. They had this rookie doctor make the determination. Now, I also want to say that at the time, they had just implemented a new department.
Right.
Am I allowed to say the name of the department or what it does or what it's supposed to do and how it failed me?
You can't say the name, but what type of department you're talking about?
It was a department that specialized in adolescent and children abuse assessment. They had doctors that claimed to specialize in child abuse. They had social workers that claimed to specialize in child abuse. They even offered a 3-year accredited training program regarding abuse for their doctors. The doctor who made the determination on my children not only didn't complete the 3 years, because she'd been working for 7 months, she didn't complete the 3 years. She wasn't even studying to complete anything regarding child abuse. She was going for, like, I think, pediatrics or something, medicine or something. You weren't even your certification had nothing to do with abuse. So what made you in your heart feel like it was your position to make that determination if you guys have a department that you just enacted regarding this matter? Now, what's very concerning is that the description that they gave of my stepson's eye while he was there, they said, and this is really important, no palpable deformity, no apparent edema. Now, I was a prior service, I was 68 Whiskey combat medic in the Army. We had to get our EMT certification. I have a vague understanding of medical terminology. And I know when someone says no edema, that means very little swelling. If someone says no apparent deformity, that means that it's very little, if any, deformity. Now they took a picture of his eye. His eye was crystal white. Like the actual white, the part of his eye that you usually see to be red in the black eye was completely white. They took a photograph at school, and it almost looks like he's just tired. Now, I understand as a parent, I might have overlooked that when I sent him to school, but if you see the picture, it's extremely minuscule. I mean, extremely. So not only did they describe it as no apparent deformity, no palpable edema, all that crazy stuff, but they made the determination that all 5 of my children exhibited signs and symptoms compatible with abuse and or neglect. Now, mind you, they had a social worker who came from that special department that we talked about. She questioned all the children in one room. Again, improper interview techniques.
That department is in the hospital.
Yes.
Okay. Yep. Is that a medical department, or is there?
They said that it's a part of the hospital, and they specialize in child abuse assessment and social work regarding child abuse.
Just
That's
tell
all.
me, what is the name? Tell us. What is the name of the
It's
department?
the scan department.
Scan.
SCAN, Seattle Children's Hospital. So,
Wow.
I mean, you can look up the research. They emphasize that they have people who work in this, and we get it right. But clearly, in my case, I had to get an expert witness, a forensic doctor of over 25 years that actually does like real child deaths, like in cases. That's where he argues. He says the exact opposite. He doesn't agree with the rookie doctor. Matter of fact, he doesn't agree with any of the statements made at the hospital. And he's trying to understand why these descriptions are so inflamed, why they're alleging there's a 7-inch laceration on the foot of one of my children. When and you know what's really interesting is they really choose when to omit statements. As they question my children say this, and they document this. Siblings report they love each other and they love their parents. They spend lots of time with each other and love going to McDonald's and playing video games. I don't know where that sounds like an abused child. Also, they failed to specify. So just like how I just said, they said a lot of things like siblings report. Oh, older siblings report. Not at all. And in the depositions, mind you, I have depositions on all of the people I've talked about already. And what's interesting is the depositions were taken regarding a criminal matter. So they were speaking as if I was the one that was underneath the magnifying glass. Fortunately, I'll talk more about my criminal proceedings, but it's going well regarding that. There's an appeal. It's about to be reviewed in March. I should hear back before summertime. And to me, that's the golden snitch. That's the end all once I get that done. Because what happened in criminal court was terrifying. Anyway, so they get the determination of abuse. And with that, they solidify the removal. With that, they justify everything. They don't need the police officers. They don't need the teachers. They don't need the social workers anymore, because now they have a doctor's determination of abuse, which is extremely hard to fight here. They arrested me January 11th. January 11th it was. And I sat in jail for 9 months.
Oh my God.
I sat in jail for 9 months, and what really kind of shocked me about this whole ordeal was initially they were trying to take all of my children and place them into foster care. As a last ditch effort to keep what children I could out of the foster system, I terminated my custodial agreement. I have a custodial agreement I wrote with two of my children, their mother is in Minnesota. I'm originally from Minneapolis, Minnesota, home of George Floyd, right around the corner from Philando Castile. And as you can see, there's more stuff going down right now in Minnesota. So this is not new to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm used to cops shaking me down and beating up my homies in alleys and shit, saying slick. I'm used to it, unfortunately. But that's where I'm from. I came here for a better opportunity and to escape that, to get some breathing room. Like I said, I'm prior service military. I'm not nefarious. I don't go around breaking rules. I'm very disciplined. Matter of fact, they even claimed that the physical exercise that I had my children do was bizarre, unusual, and appeared to cause marks greater than transient and pain greater than transient. They literally use the fact that I have my children do exercises as a part of the abuse, which doesn't make any sense, because if you Google Iron Kids Triathlon, you'll see 7-year-olds working out with weights. I mean, I'm talking about serious walls. I mean, like, were you like, are kids supposed to do this? They do it. But my children weren't exercising to that extent. We're talking about a plank position for 60 seconds or 2 minutes, and then we're switching you around. You're doing some flutter kicks, and then we're switching you around. You're doing a wall sit. You know why? Because I'm tired of spanking y'all butts. I ain't gonna spank y'all every day, all the time, and that ain't my style. I'm not gonna threaten that, because I'm a man of my word, so I can't just say, "Oh, you're gonna get a spanking," and then not spank you. You know, so it's like we got to have other alternatives, and of course we do, with timeouts and taking away their electronics and stopping them from going to the library and stuff. But I'm not gonna lie, exercise worked. The ones that were bouncing off the wall, after doing the exercise for about 5 minutes, they be quiet. They be ready to eat.
Because they're tired. They're tired.
Yeah, right? Yeah, you squeeze the juice out. They got all that energy, you know. But anyway, so they tried to use that against me. Mind you, this is something that I learned in the military. Just and in the military, it's called, or we called it, caping. That means CAPE, correctional action through physical exercise. That's all it was. It's correctional action, you know, and it's traditional black households. They might spank a butt. I'll admit, my mom worked for CPS, okay, and she tore my ass up.
And she worked for CPS.
She worked for Child Protection Services in Hennepin County, and whooped my ass.
Whooped your ass, and yet
Whooped my ass.
Oh my God!
I ain't know who to call. I'm like, oh, you know, but no, I would never have done that to my mom. And you know, I battled for a long time while I was incarcerated, trying to understand, what did I do? What did I do to make? I almost thought that it was my stepson that was making this stuff up. But you know what? After I got out, I got to tell you the most nerve-wracking part. When I sent my children back to Minnesota, I terminated the parental custodial agreement and I sent them back to Minnesota. Their mother, instantly, I'm talking about within hours of getting there, alleges that I raped my daughter, alleges that I choked and beat my son. Mind you, they question these children at school, they question these children at the hospital, and they question the children as they took them back to Minnesota, because CPS flew them back out there. Not a single thing said about any abuse or anything, but the second they get there, all of a sudden my son is saying stuff like, he got slammed out of his bunk bed and went unconscious and woke up, and me and my wife were like punching and kicking him. And it just didn't make no sense. I'm like, what is that? There's no marks on this child. You guys, he's not even listed as one of the abused children. You guys, what are you doing? Do you really think he was beaten and double teamed by two adults, one person who was 6'5", 210 pounds? You really think that this really takes place? Now we have to go into reasonable reports. You know, this has to be credible, and it's not. I don't know.
He's being told what to say.
Yes,
and you don't know if your child said that, because they don't wear body cameras. They don't have any recording of that. So you don't know what they've done even if they had a recording. You don't know what they've done before they turned the recorder on. You don't know what they do to children, because I spoke to kids after they grew the system where they were told and forced to lie, or they will never see their parents again.
And this is the thing. They weren't, the questions and the interviews weren't recorded. The first one with my stepson wasn't recorded. The one with all four of those kids in that room wasn't recorded. The one when they went to the hospital and the social worker who specialized in child abuse, you improperly recorded them all in the same room. You generalized their statements and you omitted one thing that I wish they would have put in the paperwork that they refused to, and I don't understand why. When they asked my oldest daughter where she got all these scratches on her leg and her foot, you know what she said? I got in tripping episodes because we got a dog that we're watching right now. His name is Zeus, and he be tangling me up with his leash, and sometimes I get rug burns on my foot. No mention of the dog at all. Mind you, My stepson had these two scratches right here, linear. They were like side by side, but they weren't linear. They kind of came together near the end, like this, almost like a leg, you know. And I'm trying to explain to y'all, this boy be on the ground wrestling with this dog, and this dog is a dog that belonged to a rich guy who doesn't train his dog. He just let his dog do whatever. So the dog just like hopping on people because that's what usually is allowed in his household. But of course, that they didn't even entertain that. They said that her explanation was possible, but they still decided to go for, to put abuse in there. And what they did was a very sneaky maneuver. The initial CPS report was for my one child, my one stepson. But in that hospital, what happened was they opened up another report. And in this report, it covered all of my children.
Yeah.
So the first one was just the removal. It was supposed to be just the removal of that one kid, but instead they took all the kids.
Right. That's what they
And,
do.
yep. And then they had them all labeled with the abuse, and then they opened up the next case, involving all of the children. Now, mind you, while I was incarcerated, I went through a lot of stuff. I got a PTSD diagnosis. Now, mind you, I'm military. I probably already had it. I'm not gonna lie. And like I said, I grew up in Minneapolis, South Minneapolis, the hood, dirty 30s. I'm sure I have PTSD from that. I did a little time in prison in 2012, 11, 3 years. I'm sure I got some PTSD from that. But at no point in time have I ever unraveled like how I did in that jail. I have never been incarcerated underneath the pretenses of rape of a child.
Oh my God.
Look, okay. I don't know if you hear about things about people be locked up.
Yep.
But if they find out you're a chomo, that's what they call it, a child molester.
Mm-hmm.
Your life is in jeopardy.
Yeah, I know.
All your income, that's gone. Anything you come in here with, we're taking.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you do to child molesters, the people. And I'll admit, it was like a awakening for me, because I realized that just because someone was charged doesn't mean they're guilty. And in the past, I've treated people who were charged, not convicted at the time, but at the time they were charged, I treated them as guilty, and I feel horrible about that. Now, mind you, I didn't have any problems while I was in there, which is, I'm usually the type of person who expects the worst, so I really was expecting to be fighting tooth and nail every day.
Yep.
But that wasn't the case. It was like I was beyond any suspicion of that, And I don't know, that carries volumes alone. Because anyway, so 9 months, I asserted my speedy trial rights. I didn't waive them, not a single time. 9 months I had to sit there. When my trial came, we had to sever it because they were trying to get me with assault and the rape of child. So I had to sever it. Went to trial on the rape of child. Beat the trial because the mom admitted to pressuring and tainting the child, literally in the trial. She admitted. And she also admits to saying some really evil things, like, I have a wife now, and I don't know if you noticed, but I moved to Seattle shortly after I got out from prison. And the mom was very bitter about my departure, about me just dropping everything and just going. The only reason I got my kids in the first place, that she sent them to me, was because she was in a very detrimental position in which the safety of the children wasn't insured. So she sent them to me because that's what a good mom does. Even if you hate your dad, even if you hate the baby dad, if you got to do it, you got to do it. And yeah, and I didn't shame her for that. We actually had a small window of time where we had a decent dynamic. But after I sent those kids back, things changed. And I mean, it goes to show, even at that point, none of the children stayed, except for the ones that go to Minnesota. All of a sudden, they allege bloody murder, but everyone knows that everything that they're saying is not corroborating with what they said here. And of course, the evidence, the physical evidence, no marks on none of the children. So, how were you beaten?
But
My
you know what's so sad, Zion, real quick? In foster homes, kids get abused all the time. There's bruises. There's like, I'm talking about under the arm, like somebody socked them.
I ain't even told you the whole story.
Yeah, no, but wait, but not once that the mother or the father addressed the issue to the social worker. Instead of the social worker looking into that, they tell the parent, we will remove your reunification services if you complain about this.
Now, I want to talk about that because remember I told you I wanted to avoid having my children placed into the foster system? So I sent those two, 3 of them went into the foster system. My oldest stepchild, she went to a black family, black woman, a couple other black foster kids. It was really nice. I can't say she enjoyed herself, but she didn't want for much culturally. What happened to my boys was completely infuriating. They placed my boys 2.5 hours north in Bellingham, Washington, 30 minutes from Canada, with a Christian family through a Christian organization, that foster agency. I want to drop their name so bad, but I'm gonna just go ahead and keep it quiet. So they placed my children in this home. Now, what I didn't know at the time was that 3 years before they placed my children in that home, the biological daughter of the foster parents committed first-degree child molestation against a foster kid that was 3 years old. It was a reported provider infraction. It was reported by the mom. My
God.
How false could it be? But regardless of whether it was false or not, it was not investigated by the department. And according to RCW, they're supposed to escalate these kind of reports to law enforcement and let them handle it. And then law enforcement, according to the elements of the crime, she would have been deemed a sexually aggressive youth, because a 7-year-old molesting a 3-year-old is a huge concern. And they didn't investigate it. Of course, you can't charge a 7-year-old, but you can deem them a sexually aggressive youth. And in doing so, that home would have been unfit for my children to go to.
But the 7-year-old learned it from the foster parents. Who knows?
That's what the investigation is supposed to be about.
So what I'm saying if you don't learn behavior, kids learn from what they see. And
they said that she was found at midnight fondling the 3-year-old, and they were both naked, fondling each other's genitals. My thing is I'm not trying to make anyone. All I want is what's best for my kids. They shouldn't have. First off, I'm Moorish American. If you can't tell by my last name, I'm Moorish American, Zion Grail. I practice Islamism. I also am a follower of Confucianism. And I'm a huge follower of spirituality. I'm Afrocentric as it gets. I stress to them the importance of being culturally aligned. I said this before the removal. I said this during the removal. I said this after. It's important that my children are in an environment they identify with, people they identify with, a culture that is linear with what they find comfortable. Placing them 2.5 hours north in Bellingham, all white family, and I found out later that the father of the household was a child pastor 4 years before. That alone gives me the chills. Just the chills. To this day, my youngest son, and I don't know why he does this. He didn't do this before, and I'm not judging anybody or anything, but to this day, he consistently reaches underneath his shirt and grabs on his nipple and sucks on his finger. And he's like 6 years old now. I get the finger thing. I do not get the nipple thing. Now, there's another incident that took place in the foster, multiple incidents actually, but in this foster home, during a visit while I was incarcerated, and this was reported by the supervisor of the visit itself, that the boys made sexualized comments and gestures towards each other, involving putting their penises in each other's mouths. Mind you, this is not something we talk about in my house. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
I don't do that. We don't do that. I was incarcerated. I had no knowledge of this. And at the time, the department intimidated my wife into not talking to me anymore.
Right.
Literally, I have a document that says we cannot agree to returning the children home at this time due to our concerns regarding the mother and father maintaining communication.
Wow.
So she literally wrote me on my final letter, told her lawyer that we're no longer communicating. I stopped talking to Zion. What else do I got to do? So, I mean, that was really bothering. And just taking her away while I was in there doing that, that's where I really started to unravel. And that's pretty much when that PTSD diagnosis was established. And the thing about it is, you know, lots of people have mental illnesses. I'm not saying that I just haven't brought myself to addressing it. And I had to address it in there because it got that bad. So not only did that the stuff happen out there in Bellingham with the sexualized behavior that wasn't reported, it wasn't investigated, and the supervisor observed my sons saying this, and my wife, she immediately went off like, no, they're not supposed to say this. Where did they get this from? You need to investigate this. We left a huge paper trail. No investigation regarding the kids. But you won't believe what happened though. 2 days later, they started an emergency removal. And you won't believe why. It turns out that upon visiting the boys at that foster home, a social worker observed scarring and scabbing on the face of the biological daughter of the foster parents. Upon inquiring about the markings, they discovered that I don't know if it was the mom or the dad, but one of the parents scrubbed her eyes with borax, leaving scars and scabs on her face. After they opened the investigation, the result is that they have a founded findings of abuse against these foster parents regarding their own child. And their own child alleges that she was deprived of food, that she was locked in rooms, locked out of the house, and forced to do, I forgot, something sitting for a very long time or something. I forgot what the other one was. But the main one was the borax, food deprivation, locked out of the house, and locked in rooms. So they remove my boys. I believe they also removed the girl. I don't know. I don't know though, because I don't have details regarding that. But I do know that in 2015, they should have already investigated this girl. And since they didn't, I mean, I don't know, with the sexualized behavior of my children, I mean, I feel very strongly that something sexual was going on in that house. If not by my son's sexualized behavior, but by their daughter's sexualized behavior, you know? And I guess in the back of my mind, the one person I'm concerned about is that 3-year-old foster child that I have no idea what his name was, but I know he was fondled, and I know nobody did anything.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, so moving on to that, they had the emergency removal and they took the boys out of the foster home, right? After that, what they did was, again, against RCW and illegal. They moved my boys into the same home of the woman who made the report to have my children removed. The same teacher that made the report to have my boys removed was now the foster parent of my children. And you won't believe what happens while they're in her house. My 3-year-old gets head trauma. I'm talking about his skin is scabbed over his eyebrow. This eye's swollen. Mind you, this is a 3-year-old. The initial incident happened because of a 6-year-old boy that they alleged I punched him in the eye, right? This 3-year-old child has a much worse, I mean, we take photographs and everything. His eye, remember how I said it's no palpable deformity on the other child? No appreciable edema? Mind you, this eye was red. His eye was red. The skin around it was purple. This other side was white from the skin that hadn't grown its pigment back. It was squeezed like this, and you could see visibly that he was messed up. Now, I was
But
incarcerated.
children are safe with you. See, that's the thing. They're safer with you than they are in a freaking foster home where they're getting abused, and then they wonder why the children lose their mind, and they wonder why the family lose their mind. And then if you get PSD, then you're crazy. No, you mother Fs. It's like they put the parents in a position where they're not the voice for their children.
Nope.
And actually, those National Council of Juvenile Dependency Court Judges is a membership organization, private membership. They pay money to, by the way, handling abuse, neglect, juvenile delinquency, and other cases. A private membership organization who's working as a trust, taking your children, making money from a family corporation together that is not from the government. Then they are taking that money and splitting it up between the judges, attorneys, and different peoples. So what people don't understand, these mother F's entities, right? They're all in on it. It's all about money. It's
I'm telling you,
about money. That's all it is. Not that the parents is abusive. It's not that the father is this and that. It's all about money.
I haven't even got to the craziest part. I mean, I forgot to mention that they also arrested my wife and charged her as well. But they let her out. They let her out immediately, though. You have to. I really applaud their strategy, because they kept me based off of my criminal past of going to prison 5 years ago. But even no new offenses or anything, or 6 at the time it was 5 or 6 years. It wasn't the 7 years that they needed. But anyway, they locked her up. And then they let her go 3 days later, right? And when she came to visit me after being released, they arrested her again. Now, they claim that this was a mistake. Oh, it was a mistake. But then they held her for a week and a half. So the first time they arrested her, let her go 3 days later. She came to visit me in the visiting room. They're putting handcuffs on her. I'm losing my mind on the other side of this.
Yep.
This partition. But anyway, so my 3-year-old son gets this black eye, right? And I don't know because I'm incarcerated. But when I get out, I'm following up on everything. Okay. What's this? What was the investigation? I need the name. I want the photos. What was your findings? Oh, we found.
They don't like that, man.
We determined that there was no abuse and there was nothing. There was no suspicion of foul play here. He just slipped off the toilet, and that's just what happened. And I'm like, okay, you're saying the incident itself wasn't negligent. That's fine. What medical attention did my son receive? What medical attention did my 3-year-old receive from this head trauma that left his eyes swollen and his other eye scraped, like the skin scraped off of it? What medical? Oh, well, the foster parents called the doctor's line, and they said, since he wasn't expressing pain, there was nothing that she needed to do. So that was the medical care that my son received, was a nurse line. But when you observe those minuscule marks on my 6-year-old, they literally said that it required hospitalization. How does a 6-year-old with no apparent edema and no palpable deformity require hospitalization, but a 3-year-old with deformity, redness, swelling
does not require
hospitalization? That's interesting. But hey, we'll use it, you know.
I want to because we went we're already ahead 14 minutes, okay?
Okay.
So I want to explain something to the people. They take your children by trickery. Trickery. I want you to understand, and that's Mr. Davis always says that do not sign anything. Do not sign anything. You need
Mm-mm.
an attorney. Once they contact you, you immediately need to find a juvenile dependency attorney. Immediately. Not a family law, juvenile. Okay? Do not sign anything, especially when they tell you that if you don't sign this, you're not going to get your kids back.
Mm-hmm.
Because that paper you're signing, that's all they need to say that you agreed on everything.
Mm-hmm.
Do not sign shit. And you need to get an attorney. People, please understand that these entities, right, their main goal is to steal your kids and make money off of them. Okay, not because you're a bad parent. And that's the thing that I hate, when other people in America judge mothers and fathers whose kids are stolen from them. Other people actually judge parents like that. What people don't understand is they take kids from good family, not bad ones. They actually keep the children who are being abused, and they focus on the children who are not being abused. Because it's like, I see them as demons. You know, demons need a body to nest in it.
Mm.
A nesting body. So demons attack dark people, darker, dark inside, like the ones that have no soul. Literally, who do evil in life and for a living. I'm not joking, you guys. This shit is real. And they need a body to nest in that body for a reason. These people that steal the children, they're not normal human beings. They're sociopathic individual. They're
Mm-hmm.
narcissistic individual that have no remorse. They have no compassion. They have no nothing. They're like the Walking Dead.
Well, they have a power struggle, that's for sure.
Well, I call judges black robe fever. They wear black robe, right? They're just attorneys in black robes. That's all they are.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then they have black robe fever when they sit on that bench. But what they don't understand is, to be a judge, you can't just be good on paper, because common sense ain't taught in schools. It's not taught in schools. All right? So when they give that much power to a social worker that probably barely graduated high school,
Mm.
or a social worker that just barely made it in life, or that social worker that had bad rooted history from abuse from a father or a mother, and they're taking it out on the father or the mother of the children because
Mm-hmm.
they're reflecting back to their own lives.
Yep. Unconscious bias.
Yeah, exactly. This is bullshit. I don't care if you're black. I don't care if you're white. I don't care if you're pink. I don't care if you're purple. I don't care if you're Asian, Middle Eastern. It doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
These mother F's leaves children with the abusive party.
Yeah.
And they get neglected. They get abused. They get bruised brutally.
Well,
There's
they had my son wearing lipstick.
a 5-year-old or a 4-year-old kid last year that was kicked in the gut and was in a coma from the foster parent. There was no abuse with the mom, but you steal the kid and you put them in an abusive home, abused and kicked and treated treated, oh my God, they're treated like maids. They're treated like they're nothing.
Like paychecks.
Yes. And to me, like, I spoke to a young lady that was in the foster system, and she said to me that the foster mom had 2 refrigerators, one inside the house, the other one in the garage, and they only had her touch the one in the garage. And that had only little pieces of things or snacks or whatever. But the one in the house is where the ice cream was, where this was, for the foster parents' children.
Oh wow. Yeah, that sounds about
So
right.
felt a disconnect, and how they treated her different than their own children. These
Sure.
foster mother Fs come foster parents for a reason. They come foster parents for a reason.
It's all bad.
This bullshit is happening everywhere in the United effing States. And it continues going on. There's a lot of information I have been researching and I have been studying about. I'm not going to share it with you guys until I speak to Mr. Davis to make sure that is accurate. Or to make sure that it's the right information. He's my mentor, so I go to him for everything. And honestly, you guys, what's going on right now, it's far more than you could ever process. I'm being honest. It's far more. These people take other people's lives. They steal your dignity. They steal your souls. Once they touch your children, it's like they're literally taking your soul from you.
And they change them.
And they change your kids. Not the kids are not
Change
behaving
them.
like this because of the parents. The kids
Mhm.
behave like this because of what they do to the kids. They're
What they've
traumatized.
been through.
They're traumatizing them. The introductory video of the documentary that Davis was in, and the kid that was crying and the social worker stealing them. That kid didn't want to go with them. That kid wanted to stay home.
And they bribe them too. They
Yeah.
promise my kids they can go to the zoo. They got them some pajamas the same day.
Not that they bribe other kids with iPhones. They bribe them with tablets. They bribe them with this. They bribe them with that. I get it. I get it. But inside the child, this is just a temporary fix. What they're doing is they're ruining that child for the rest of his or her life.
Yep. And he's more likely to enter the corrections.
Right.
He's more likely to end up in jail or prison or some halfway house or transitional homing or some kind of trouble because of these traumatic events.
Yep. Yep. It's look, it's traumatizing. It's traumatizing what they do to these kids. And then they blame the parents. I hate it when they keep saying it's the parent. It's not the parent.
You know, the sad thing is after I got out, I took a polygraph test and I passed it. They said there was no deception detected. You know, I went through all those silly classes that they want me to do, and you know, and they still didn't want to give the kids back just because I wouldn't admit.
Yeah.
I wouldn't admit to them that I abused my children, and to this very day.
And that's the thing. They tell you, admit that you did this so you can get your kids. Don't admit to shit.
Nope.
Because whether you admit or not, you're not going to get your kids.
Yep.
But you want to have a reason and say, look, he admitted. He admitted this right here. He signed it. He admitted it.
Mm-hmm.
So that way you can't go sue their asses.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's what I had to do so far. Is
don't admit. Don't admit. Don't admit to something you didn't do.
That's the worst choice you can make because once you do it, you can't backpedal. You can't say I didn't mean it.
They're using your kids to get you to admit.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's how a lot of parents fall in the trap, the trickery. Only the devil tricks. The devil is the father of lies. Right? You know the devil by his actions. Remember that. You know them by their actions. It's not about what comes out of their mouth, right? It's how they live, what they do in life. So you guys have to understand, these entities are not normal human beings. They can be in the body of a human being, but their soul is not clear. Their soul is dark inside. And just be careful and not admit to something you didn't do. And like I said, please hire a juvenile dependency attorney. I recommend you finding one as soon as possible. And don't ever think that a family law attorney telling you, I want this retainer, this small retainer, that he or she can help you. Family law is different than juvenile. Juvenile is higher courts, family law is lower courts. So whatever happened in family law courts, juvenile cases, when it goes to juvenile court, that judge supersedes that. That court supersedes whatever order that was in family law. So you have to, again, it's I look at it this way, like Mr. Davis said to me one time, he said, knowledge is power. Your rights are the law. Knowledge is power and your rights are the law. And don't allow them to tell you that you have no rights. Yes, you do. You have rights. So I'm going to leave it.
I fought for him in the army.
Yeah, yep. This is sad. I do this show every week, once a week on Wednesdays, and 3 shows that is. And honestly, every show I do, I just want to, wow, I wish I had a magic stick, that I could just use and just make them disappear, because they're useless. They really are useless. And that's why they paint the parents so badly. So badly.
Mm-hmm.
Steal their kids. And then the foster parents look at the report. Oh yes, the mother is meth user. The mother is this. Oh yeah, and the dad is in jail. Oh yeah, they're bad parents. Yeah, yep.
They didn't even want to talk to me.
Parents are stupid. Foster parents are like, oh, the social workers have no reason to lie. Unless it happens to them, then they're going to say, oh my God, our system sucks.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's how it goes. We have families who are Christian, for example. They put their children in a Muslim home or in a gay couple home. Or we have Muslim families who put their kids in a different home. They don't, you know what I mean? The culture is different. The belief is different. So the kids are confused. My dad prays this way, but they put me in a home that prays this way. Okay, this is not about, how can I say it? They do it intentionally.
Yeah, they do.
They do it intentionally.
They could have kept my siblings. They could have kept my kids together. They could have.
But they didn't. They separated them.
They specifically placed my boys. The one biological child I had left, they placed as far away from this city as they could.
Yep.
It was a 5-hour commute to see my kid for 3 hours. It was 8 hours.
But that's why they did it. So you can give up.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they did it. That's why it's 5 hours commute.
Yeah. It was horrible. It was horrible. I couldn't even afford the damn trip there and back. Like that was like $45 in gas twice a week. I mean, 8 hours segment of time. You can't work around that, especially when they say you got to be here by 12. That's the middle of the day,
Yep. That's exactly what they do. They want you to give up.
It's all bad. That's not good.
I know.
But on a bright note, all of my all of 3 of my children are back home. Since then, we got them back in at the very beginning of 2020, we have a newborn, and since then we've got married. We bought we had to get out of the same neighborhood because we couldn't keep sending our kids to that same school. It's nerve-wracking, after a situation like that happens, it puts you, I'm like hyper vigilant. Like if my kid has a scratch, like I can't sleep thinking about he's going to go to school. I don't know what's going to happen, And it's like, and the what hurts me the most is that they actually have laws here that are supposed to protect parents that literally say you can discipline your child. But then when you discipline your child, they label it as abuse, but they're not supposed to. By law, they're
You know what's so sad? There's a one of our clients, his husband, he's the abuser, and she has no record against him. I mean, against her at all. And they stole her kids based on his allegations because he's a firefighter, and his mother is an attorney, and he married a district attorney after the wife and him divorced. And that district attorney became a judge, right? So the wife is trying to fight for her children. So that mother, piece of shit, the social worker told him, "Oh, it's okay. Spanking is okay." But he wasn't just spanking; it was worse than that.
Yeah.
But they put it down in the report that spanking is okay.
Because it is. I mean, it's a familial practice.
No, you have to understand. Spanking is not okay. It's not okay.
Legal. I'm sorry. Okay and legal are two different.
No, not about that. Spanking, when you spank a child, right? When you teach a child that bam is a spank, is different than don't do that, baby. It's gonna hurt you. There's a difference. But when you teach a child that the whip is a spank, the child is gonna tell the police, "Yeah, I get spanked." You understand the difference? But the child is conditioned to think it's a spanking. But the social worker is saying, no, we'll keep the children with the abuser, right? Spanking is okay. You get it? You get what I'm trying to say?
No, I see.
They're actually putting the children in harm's way.
Yeah, like in the foster homes, my son kept on complaining about being grabbed, and he said it hurt him, and he was frequently grabbed by this foster parent, and she admitted that he said it hurt every single time.
Yep.
But then she also said that he always complains that things hurt.
Yeah.
And the fact of the matter is whether he complains about it or not, if he says it hurts, stop. This isn't your child.
Yeah, and also abuse comes in different forms. For example, an abuser would not do things in front of people. So an abusive father, for example, he will behave different in front of people. But behind closed doors, like daughters would say, like, other kids would say, my dad is a monster when no one is around. But in front of people and his wife judge, he's a different father. So people don't understand that narcissistic, sociopathic people will choose the right person, right? To get the system to side with them. And the system, social workers and all these idiots and judges, they side with the abuser all the time. I'm being honest with you. They side with the abusers, but yet they claim that the victim is the abuser. So what the lie to them is the truth, and the truth is a lie.
Inverted.
Because they cannot, like I said, demons. A house divided against itself is not going to stand. You guys have to understand that. So they protect each other. Demons protect each other. Demons don't go against demons. Keep that in mind. That's why the system is so corrupt. These mother F's, they might have a degree, but they suck at their job.
Yeah, I always say, and this is what I stand on everywhere I go. No matter how I make you feel, you got a job to do. No matter what emotions I evoke from my beliefs and my actions, it doesn't change your job description.
Right.
You're here for one thing and one thing only, and that's to fulfill your job description as a professional, not to bring your uninvited bias or or any of that into the equation.
And a lot of these crazy judges, actually, or social workers and district attorneys and these mother F's, they actually have some deep-rooted issues from childhood.
Yeah.
A judge
What
would
is it?
favor
What is it?
a man
Savior
over
complex?
a woman, right? Or another judge would favor the woman over the man. But one of them is the abuser.
Mm-hmm.
Judges are not trained professionals to read body language of a sociopath or a narcissist, right?
Mm.
They're not capable of doing that. I honestly feel, I'll give another example. That firefighter I'm talking about, his wife was the judge, you know, she controls the show, right?
Mm-hmm.
She knows she has connection with other judges. Obviously, they all know each other. It's like I call it the whorehouse, right? And that's why the abuser gets away with murder, because he connected with the right person that will help him succeed.
Mm-hmm.
Am I right? But those judges don't see the way it planned out, even when the victim is bringing it to their attention. As soon as they see that the wife is a judge, guess what? They still side with him, even if the children cried out. Does that make sense? Even if
Yeah.
the children reported abuse in the school, guess what? Another parent would have been called CPS on, right? But because the principal of the school knows the the wife, right, who is the judge, would not call CPS.
Mm-hmm.
Get it? Because his
Conflict of
wife is
interest.
a judge. There you go. His wife is a judge. So they protect each other. But if the parent has no connection, right, and the child reported abuse, they will call CPS.
And well, and, you know, sometimes it's not even about connection. Sometimes it's just about privilege. I hate to say it,
It's
privilege.
privilege. Well, yeah, privilege. You're right, privilege. But the privilege is what? His connection. That's the privilege.
Sometimes it's not even a connection. Sometimes it's just that right there. If it's
Let me
just that
put it
right
to you
there.
this way. Let me put it to you this way. You don't just marry someone, right? When you're
Mhm.
going through a divorce, you're not just with someone going through your divorce, and then you marry her immediately after your divorce, if that was love. That's not love. That's called a business transaction,
Mm.
right? It's called a business transaction. What can I get out of this district attorney
Mm.
who's going to be a judge? What can I use her for? It's
Yep.
not love. It's
Yep.
called a business transaction or convenience.
Mm.
Okay. And then when his abuse becomes open to the judge, then he's going to blame who? The ex-wife for his actions. An abuser will always blame somebody else for their actions. Does that
Mm.
make
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess I've never been around too many
The whole
abusers.
system is abusive. What I'm saying, the whole system is abusive.
Mm-hmm. I
They use
agree.
strategy to abuse you, to trick you. Same thing with
Mm-hmm.
a narcissistic husband or a sociopathic husband. Same thing. What I'm saying is it's a business thing. It's all about
Mm-hmm.
business and money.
Yeah.
That's all it is. It's all about money. At the end of the day, the power, the name, the money. Power, name, and money. That's all it is. So be strong, everyone, and don't ever give up on your children. They need you, and you need to work on yourself. And don't allow these mother f's to bring you down, and don't allow them to put you in a position where you're helpless. I want you to be stronger, only because that's what they want you to do, is fail. They
Mm-hmm.
will push you so badly until you actually fail and result to drugs and result to all kinds of shit,
Well, I'm
alcohol.
prior service military. If I snap, it ain't gonna be the drugs.
Well, I know. You know what I mean. But
Yeah.
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 But what I'm saying is use meditation. Meditation is so
Mm-hmm.
important. People don't think it's boring. It's not boring. I've been doing it since I was 15. Meditation is what keeps you sane
Mm.
because you're clearing out the clutter and you're focused. You're centered. You're centering yourself. When you center yourself, you get clarity of what's going on. But if you keep piling up negative, what you hear, that you're no good, you're a loser, that's how you're going to behave. And that's what they want you to do. They want you to fall. Don't allow it to happen. And by you building knowledge, building strong connection, that's very important. Meditation is more important than taking a painkiller, because the painkiller is just a temporary fix. Or drugs is not going to help you, because you're going to wake up from being drugged to
The same situation.
It's not going to go away. So drugs controls you. You don't control it. Stay away from this shit.
True that.
Stay away from it. And focus on meditation. If you have to go to the beach to meditate or center yourself, focus on something that you enjoy to center yourself. Not drugs and not alcohol, but like special type of, like relaxing ocean sound or whatever, anything that centers you and clears your mind, clear that clutter out and gain knowledge. Because
that's all I've been doing.
Yeah, and that's good. Oftentimes people call us and they're angry. We know you're angry. We understand it.
You got to channel that.
Be able to share your story so an attorney can understand what you're saying. I see a lot of people and I hear them. They're talking about irrelevant shit that doesn't mean shit. They're not listening to the attorney's questions. Hey, when were they took your child? Why was your child removed? What's the allegation? They literally don't they don't answer you. They're literally saying things that had nothing to do with the questions.
It's hard. It's hard as a parent to channel that in.
It's hard, but they want you to.
I've been working on it for years.
But they want you to fall so badly by confusing your life so you don't talk clearly. You have to
articulate your claim properly. That's where I'm at right now. Is they want me to, because I'm in civil litigation in federal court with these guys, and they keep saying, they're trying to emphasize that it has to be properly articulated.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing they're hiding behind right now is immunity.
Right.
But one thing I did learn from Vincent is that's not a shield when the action was done not in good faith.
Okay.
If the action itself wasn't done in good faith, then the immunity doesn't apply. And I mean, there's clear evidence in my situation that they disregarded numerous RCWs, numerous policy in the police SPD handbook, numerous policies for DCYF. I mean, I can. There's at least 12 or 15 direct violations, and of course they fall underneath constitutional violations. But nonetheless, they've definitely did a number on my case.
Right.
And what's so insulting is that they just assumed that it would be okay,
right,
that you can do this to my family, and that nothing will happen. And it took many years for me to kind of channel that anger that you talked about.
Right.
Because a younger me would have handled it a completely different way.
I know.
I mean,
that's why it's very important to focus and be strong. So we have to go now, Zion. It's a pleasure to have, to really hear you talk about your story and share it with us. And God bless all of you guys. And don't ever give up. You guys can watch my show for Relatives Fight CPS at 7 p.m. tonight, Pacific Standard Time. And God bless all of you guys. Thank you, Zion.
Thank you. Bye-bye.